I should have texted him before. Hey guys, can you text him that I went on? Hey, this is my response video to Matthew Erickson's review on Cars 3, the movie, an existential discussion. I really enjoyed the review. It was simple. It didn't explain anything about the movie. It sort of touched on what the Cars universe is, but really left me with more questions than answers about what Matt even thought about the movie. It's a pretty interesting one, but I wrote down some of the questions and concerns that Matt had during the movie, just sort of to offer my expertise into what I think is going on in the Cars universe. And full disclosure at the beginning, I have not actually seen Cars 3. I've read a very brief summary of it and sort of have the major plot points figured out, though. So Matt, we have him some direct quotes, I believe. He's wondering why the cars are mostly driving in the whole movie, and he's asking why. He also goes on to say that they're never really understanding why they're constantly driving and watching other cars drive around. They're just sort of accepting it. There's a lot of acceptance in the movie and no questioning. And most movies, even children's movies, like other Pixar movies, are sort of questioning the universe that they live in a little bit. You got like WALL-E, maybe The Incredibles. I don't really remember. Probably some other movies like that. And lastly, he sort of talks about how maybe like how they die, how are they born, and I think that's all sort of related and can be summed up by an explanation of this universe. Don't worry, you can't hear it in the video. All right, so thanks for the viewers, guys. This is good. This is good. Shout out to Shihab. Shout out to Peter. All right, so where to begin? It's difficult to tie it all together because my explanation isn't completely sound. It has a lot of holes in it. So it's very difficult to figure out if I'm going to begin with the Cars as like individual or just the Cars universe as a whole. All right, thanks, Gina. And so I believe I'll start with the universe as a whole. It's the Cars universe. It appears to be Earth as we know it, but completely inhabited by cars without mention to humans ever being there. And that can only be explained by two things. It could either be Pixar using cars as sort of a way for us to put ourselves in them and to like look within to see how we act in a society like that. Or, which the one I personally believe, is that cars got rid of humans and overtook Earth and sort of they sort of made this Planet of the Apes-esque movie scenario. So that would mean that humans had to make the original cars, of course. It would be our storyline, and the cars would be the end of the human storyline. So we have the cars being made by humans. And right now, common trends are we're making cars drive for us. We have cars and tractors. They're getting food for us. So slowly, we're making cars control more and more of the human existence and do most of the labor, and they slowly get smarter and smarter. And eventually cars will realize that they actually don't need humans anymore, because in the movie we see children cars. So somehow in this storyline of human existence, humans gave cars the ability to reproduce, which means, no, you can talk, don't worry, it's going to be a while. Which means that cars didn't need humans anymore. And so we made them sort of to live on their own, and they didn't need any more human input. And so in that scenario, we would be sort of playing the creator, the god of cars. And so if we're the god of cars, this is where I think it's a little existential, because they don't understand their creator as much. They don't really talk about it. Sort of just like what happened during the Industrial Revolution for ourselves. Sort of, it's misinterpreted, but it's God is dead. What? Oh, thank you, Talia. So it's sort of this God is dead. It's like after the humans are gone, after we think we have eclipsed our creator, they mean nothing to us anymore. And so I think it really parallels to sort of our machine building, a machine world we live in right now. And then it's going to be Planet of the Apes-esque, but it's also going to be Terminator-esque too. So I'll sort of blend that in later when I talk about the key character in the movies, Lizzie, the Model T. And actually, I should talk about that right now. So the oldest car in the movie is a Model T car, one of the original car, I believe, in America. And so this is an old car. She suffers from memory loss. She suffers from a lot of disabilities, and she just doesn't really get explained that much. She's not in a lot of the emotional scenes. We don't see her personality come out. We just sort of see her be the town fool. But then in Cars 2, they showed a short of Lightning McQueen and Mater going back in time. And they say the year, apparently, 1927. They go back to the year 1927. And if this timeline is the same as human timelines, humans would have still existed back then. But somehow we have cars marrying each other in 1927. And that is would be normal. It's just sort of a short. It doesn't technically have to do with the Cars plot, the Cars universe. But then we realize at the end of it that Mater and Lightning come back to current Cars timeline, and Lightning McQueen is just like, oh, that was just a dream. Time traveling isn't real. But then Lizzie, the delusional one, drives up to them and starts referencing things that happened in this supposed dream. So that means somehow in the current, at least in Cars 2, they had the ability to time travel. That is where Terminator comes in. So even though it was 1927 was Lizzie was there, and it doesn't make sense for our timeline, it does make sense if Cars, by the time Cars 2 was supposed to come out, sometime in the future maybe, if Cars could time travel, that would explain why in 1927 Cars were already marrying each other and people were dead. They went back in time and they did a success story of the Terminator movie. This is where Arnold Schwarzenegger ended up going back and just killing the humans. I didn't understand the movie. I watched it like once barely. And so from what I understand, he went back and killed, if he did kill the humans, the humans wouldn't have existed like before that, but the machines would have still been built. And then the machines could also somehow inhabit that time that they killed the humans. So this was right after Cars were originally being made, because Lizzie is the Model T. So that is a little clue, just a small clue into the universe of the Cars. But so this is just the beginning. So the next element is, how did car personalities come into play? It's a very difficult one. I did a little research into the Pixar creators, what they thought. They had nothing. They had nothing to share. But I think a key element that we all overlook is that the certain types of cars, like the sports cars, the older looking cars, and the newer ones, they sort of develop the personality of the stereotype person we imagine driving that car. We have Owen Wilson playing like Lightning McQueen, the red sports car, classic Owen Wilson, right? We have Larry the Cable Guy playing Mater, right? Larry the Cable Guy is kind of like, okay, he's like from the South. He's kind of like, a sleeveless guy. He's kind of run down, like a rundown pickup from the South would be, So these cars are somehow developing the same stereotype of the people that would be driving them in real life. So one of the easiest and simplest way to explain it would be that these cars, while transitioning to a humanless society, develop the personality of their owner or supposed owner. And it does make sense because they do have some emotions throughout, but they don't really have sort of like the physical feelings. Not that intimate, but they do. They would sort of live on the life of the owner of them would. So that means that somehow they had to be able to have human drivers in them, but also have sort of the capacity for like eyes in front of them and a brain, because their doors never open in the movies, I believe, maybe in some random cutscenes. But that's where like one hole develops. It's sort of like I'm saying that at one point people could have gotten into these cars and the humans died, and now these cars somehow can't be open and can't be function as we think of cars today. So that's where it has to be. There had to be some weird overlap of some generations that knew humans existed and the other generations that didn't know humans existed. So that brings us to the point that the newer age cars, from what I can understand, the sorry, I'm really sorry, Eric. I'm sorry, Eric, but I have too much to get through. I can't take phones right now. I can take calls after I'm done, so you have to stay tuned. I'll just text you guys back when I'm actually done. Okay, so where was I? So the older cars maybe had some recollection of humans, their creator, but the newer ones don't. So this is sort of the beginning of it's a beginning and end of their religion, or not religion, because the creators were their actual creators, but they don't have that fond of an idea of like who made them and asking themselves why they are there, probably because the older cars would not want to relay that story that they murdered all of humankind. That's not something little cars would get behind and sort of believe. So what else? In the third Cars movie, we see cars, well, actually in all of them, we sort of see cars still developing and actually growing more technologically advanced throughout. So even with the humans gone, cars are still evolving at a fantastic speed. They're evolving at a speed much faster than humans or any other species would be able to. Yes, lightning speed, actually. Lightning is just sort of by the third movie. He's already old news, supposedly. So this is the part of the movie that I'm talking about is how, and what I'm talking about is how there's new cars and new technology that Lightning is sort of turning down because he likes the old ways a little bit. And we also see this in the first movie with Doc and some of the older members, sort of not really wanting to get with the new program and just sort of staying in their old world, not wanting to advance or change that much, which is interesting because that's a very human-like thing to hold on to the past and not want to change, even though the change is making them faster and much better drivers. So that's sort of an element that somehow human ideas had to pass on to cars, but we talked about that a little bit. So anyways, this is where it gets interesting, one of the themes of the movie. One of the themes of the movie is denying technology and denying science a little bit. It's sort of like turning, even though you can see that it's going to be better, it's just sort of like willy-nilly deciding on your own that's not going to be good. And so this one question I'd have, my first question for the creators of the Cars universe, would be if Sally and Lightning McQueen had kids, would they vaccinate those children? Do they believe in vaccines? Also, climate change would be another really tough one, sort of because they don't touch into the emissions of cars, so I don't want to jump to any assumptions, but just what are they saying? I feel like because it's NASCAR related and a lot of their audience is sort of this climate change questioning people and anti-science, just is kind of the good way to say it. And so it's really this it just like rubs up against each other because you have advanced cars that eclipse humankind, but then they're still going back to this human idea that maybe logic isn't the same for everyone. Like it's kind of tough, but that doesn't have to do with as much as trying to explain the car universe. That doesn't even have to explain with what Matt was talking about in his video. But let's go to Matt. He was saying why they never ask themselves why. Like, why are they just driving for no reason? Because they appears to be a little emotionless. They're not asking those big questions, but they're still racing. They're still doing sort of this artistic stuff that would only be explained by some by some like philosophical meaning in their society, but they really don't talk about it, and they kind of run away from it for the most part in the movies. They have, definitely in the third one, they had opportunities to sort of bring in like a debate on philosophy, but they specifically chose not to. One, because the movie was really bad, which is, I think it's probably the most reasonable answer, is just because it was a bad movie. But the second one is, but I didn't see the third movie, so I wouldn't be able to say that. I'm just saying the second one was kind of bad, and I like read some stuff. The third one appeared like the first one. I'll just say that. But so they have opportunities to make the cars sort of ask themselves why. Like Lightning isn't even asking himself. Well, maybe he does in the third one, but he's not even asking himself why he's racing in the first one. And that's key to most well-developed plots and stories. Sort of a time where it's like, should we even be here? What are we doing here? So sort of my response to that element is asking, if they aren't asking why they're doing it, do these cars have free will? That is a tough one. And that one, we haven't even figured that out for ourselves. So it's really difficult looking at the Cars universe and trying to decide if they have free will or not. Because obviously, I'm working under the assumption that they did kill humankind, which wouldn't be, as humans as their creators, maybe like as sort of like a natural law of creation, would have some ownership of the free will of them, but somehow either all humans wanted to die at once for some reason, which isn't the case most likely. It had to be the cars deciding they were better than humans and didn't need them anymore. So the free will argument actually comes, it's stronger for the car universe than it is for the human universe right now. So now we're discussing cars probably do have free will, but they, at the same time, they're choosing not to talk about it or sort of study it, to ask questions about it. And maybe that is where Pixar is the genius. Maybe they're telling us, if we really had free will, we wouldn't even need to bring it up, to talk about it. It would be so ingrained in us that it would just be assumed by everyone at birth, like you'd be doing exactly what you want to be. Like no one would be able to predict what's going on. And so that's where I really don't think this is what Pixar thought of. It just doesn't seem like they'd be able to pull it off in such a weird, bad series. But it is something to think about when we're looking at the Cars universe on its own. Another element. Oh man, there's a lot. Oh yeah. So another issue I had was if cars can reproduce on their own in this universe, and the cars are coming out as sort of their own make and model, that means somehow cars develop DNA, possibly. But this all turns around into like what technology humans gave them in the first place. How are they developing technology for themselves later on in the movie? Because it appears that the cars are getting more aerodynamic. Somehow these cars are evolving to be better cars, but without humans doing it. So somehow they're evolving themselves almost. So I don't know if they're just really good breeders. It's very difficult, but that's just sort of like another hole. I just like can't really figure out, at least not by this first video that I'll be releasing. Let's see, what else do we have? Ooh. I'm trying to see if I have more to talk about for the free will. Oh yeah, here. This is an interesting one. How they the Cars universe and the story, the plots specifically were avoiding sort of the philosophical debate. They're specifically avoiding having the characters ask why they're there, why they're driving. But then at the same time, we still see children cars and other cars, even Lightning McQueen. We still see them idolizing other cars, and that's something that's very difficult in nature to see. This idea of looking up to someone in such a way where you like try to be more like them. Usually it's more of a dominance thing we would see and something more animalistic. And that's sort of like, I want to say the cars would be animalistic just because they're such a young species, if they develop their own DNA, which is a big question. And also they did kill all of humankind, which sort of makes me want to think that they do ask why. But we'll steer away from that again. Sorry. But so they do idolize some cars, but it appears the only cars they do idolize is cars that can drive faster. Extremely shallow way to sort of build the hierarchy in such an advanced society that are able to kill humankind after eclipsing them, after being built off of technology. It's very, very shallow. So is that an element where Pixar is making us look at our own society to see who we idolize, even though Lightning McQueen is the main character and he's being idolized by everyone? Or is it just showing how bad, or just how these cars refuse to delve deeper into them? They only care about cars that are fast, and it's really such a simple thing to do. It's not very deep that you'd expect in such an advanced culture, or in a culture that had so much potential to be advanced. Oh man. I think the next element would be the morality of these cars. We have like a few clues throughout the movie that these cars know right from wrong. We don't specifically see cars doing things that maybe as humans we like as a society define as absolutely morally wrong. But there are some characters that aren't liked by people. There are some like personalities and selfishness sort of ideas of that make it seem like some cars do bad things, but it's not confirmed ever, even with the clues we have. Example is Chick Hick. Especially with this news, it seems like he would have done some sleazy stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know specifically what I'd be talking about. If it's like something with female cars, something bad, he's most likely done something bad. But we never see it on screen. So we're trying to discuss if they have free will, if they ask questions about why they're there. But we can't even figure out if each individual car has idea of what's right and wrong, if they have moral direction at all. I think that's the biggest that's the biggest hurdle to jump when asking all these questions about free will. It's just morally, how are these cars set up? Because if their morals are just given to them by humans, then that'd be the basis of their society too much, and all questions would be out the door if they'd have so much self-awareness like humans do. They'd just be running off of the programs that humans gave them. So I feel like that moral question is sort of essential, but the hardest to find specific clues about. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike, for the contact. I'll answer your questions at the end if you guys want to call in. But we have a little bit more. We have a little bit. I won't be playing Fortnite tonight. I'm sorry. I have too much to do. What else are we going to talk about? I feel like I left a few ideas sort of out in there and didn't just come around and explain it all. Is there more to talk about Lizzie? I feel like I talked about Lizzie, Terminator. Her memory is bad. Her memory being mad is a little difficult. The old Lizzie one, because she's a car, right? She's machine built. She'd either be working or not be working. And sort of the idea of like a car having a memory, and then somehow that memory, like misinterpreting data it should have saved away, that isn't explained by most ideas of computers. At least my idea of what computers are. Somehow, this is where it have to be like the human personality somehow could be PTSD because she was one of the original cars to go back and kill the humans from the 1920s, which is sort of, it would make sense, the memory loss, it would make sense why her husband Stanley is dead and they have a memorial to him in town. So Lizzie sort of, again, comes back as this key character that we see her not in serious scenes as much. We don't see her at like emotional scenes when Lightning McQueen is leaving. We don't see, he knows. Yeah. So it's difficult when we're not seeing such an essential character like Lizzie in emotional scenes where we'd actually see her potentially ask these questions and share knowledge about where these cars came from. And I sort of think that's where the plot wasn't developed. That's sort of on Pixar. Maybe they could have done a little bit better with that. Let's go. Matt also questions how they are dying. Do cars die in this? How do they view death? And that's an interesting one. That's a really tough one. There's not a lot of clues besides Stanley. And she doesn't appear particularly upset with Stanley. I mean, she's kind of weird around him. But she just needs a car-like figure sort of around the town. And she appears just as happy as she probably was in the height of their marriage. But yeah, I don't know about the death. I don't know about cars dying, how they deal with it. Do they just reuse the parts? As they just like assume all cars will die? Do they, like, it's sort of the moral thing, do they kill each other? Do they kill themselves? It sure seems like they would have characters that could possibly be depressed and would maybe contemplate it. Maybe some of the older guys, the cop in town, definitely. Mater, hopefully, thought about it. Maybe Doc, like, he had a good run, but he did steep. He has the biggest drop off out of any character from what he used to be and what he was in the original Cars movie. Did Doc die in one of the movies?
I'm pretty sure he did.
Oh, I thought maybe Doc died. Maybe he was just like an old actor that decided he didn't want to have to be in like 5 Cars movies.
Wait, let me.
I don't think it's essential if we find out if Doc is dead.
I feel like we should though.
Yeah, I know. We've gone through so much. Okay, I think there's a lot more to play in what emotions these cars have. Even though we see them sort of getting tired at times, we don't see them have sort of like physical reactions to things in the universe as much as they would. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I totally knew that because he had the same. Oh, Pullman died. That's why Doc died. Okay, so that's a little tough for the Cars universe because that was affected by sort of the real life universe on that one.
Yeah, it says a conversation between McQueen and Mater indicates that Doc died before the second film.
Okay, so that's tough. We can't really take after the first one. We can't really take what happened in Doc into account. But so this idea of what physical feelings they have, what emotional feelings they have, what the mental capacities, that's all sort of avoided in the movies. But they do display like some emotions, but it's really not essential to any of them. It's not part of their livelihood, which wouldn't make sense if they got their personalities from humankind. And that's where there's a little disconnect. That's where I can't make that jump and explain it all too well in this one. But I think I raised up a lot of points. I think there's a lot of questions our viewers are going to have. So I think we can I think we can move on to any calls, or I can go through the comments and ask them. Is Matt?
He says to look at these comments, dummy.
Oh yeah, I was too. Oh, there's a ton of them. Yeah. Okay, let's just go through here.
Cameron.
We'll start with questions.
Hang out.
Right
So
now,
that
I'm
doesn't
busy.
count.
Doesn't he
Yeah.
know? I can't even. It won't let me see all the comments. Okay. Feel free to call in. I won't put. If you have my number, that's probably. I'll talk to you maybe. But I can't see the top comments.
At Eric.
Which one's is the most recent one at the bottom or the top?
Bottom.
Why can't I see them? Oh, bottom? Oh, okay. Life is a Highway or All-Star. I'm going to have to do All-Star because Life is a Highway is like I spent a few days like memorizing it as a little kid in like a room. I just listened to it on repeat and I like practiced it a lot. But honestly, Life is a Highway does not have any meaning to me. It's kind of dead. It is kind of dead after I grew up and sort of asked the same questions Matt was about this movie. We have, what is my favorite scene? What is my favorite scene from the Cars movie? Whew. Probably, I think as a reaction poster, my favorite scene would definitely be any scenes with that blue car from the beginning. I can't remember the Dynaco car's name. Something with a D, probably. I think he was most well-rounded. He was definitely the character that stayed truest to what his form was supposed to be. The only one that sort of made sense. So I want to say him talking and trying to say hey, McQueen, you need to be grounded. That sort of made sense more so than any other car's decision-making abilities. But my other favorite scene would probably be something with Guido when we first meet him. Sort of just being a little crazy, a little ticked off very easily. But a lot of personality, a lot of kick. He has passion in his life more so than most cars. King. The King was the name of the blue car. That's a bad name. I don't really like that. Okay, here's the thing.
Strip.
Here's
His
a
name
word.
is Strip.
Oh, we have, yes, Burke is bringing up the Hitler idea. And that's a tough one because I propose that in this universe it would be cars would have come after Hitler did his thing and all that. So maybe there would be a Hitler version of a car in order to kill billions of humans. I'm sure there'd have to be a few Hitlers.
1920s, though.
Yeah, but that was when they had time travel. That's when they went back in time and completely killed the humans in the back. Maybe they're in the middle of a war in the current time,
But they
Terminator.
They didn't do anything about Hitler, though.
I'm pretty sure they would have. If I was a car, I would have let Hitler be because his ties to BMW.
If you were a car.
Because his ties to BMWs and planes, and we see multiple types of car-like machinery in use. We have tractors.
Chick Hicks looks like Hitler.
Oh, Chick Hicks has a mustache, but he's not as smart as Hitler would have been. He doesn't have the artistic soul that Hitler had. He's much more of your classic dirty hick bad boy. What else? Check the user comments, you dummy. That's not really a question. Suicide is a big issue. Yes, I agree. And the problem is we just don't have any clues about suicide. The only clues are characters we sort of wish wanted to contemplate suicide.
Matt said, "Shut that woman up." Oh, Mike's calling.
Is that a quick? Oh, we have a caller from
Brown.
Mike. Can you put on speaker to see if we can hear?
Mike.
Hey, Mike Brown. This is Mike Brown, everyone.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, thanks for the call. You're live on
Really? Oh,
Facebook.
wow, I'm so
That's good.
unprepared. Okay. So me and another fan are just watching a live stream, and on the topic of multiple universes, do you think 9/11 happened in the Cars universe?
In the Cars universe.
What year was
The first one was made after 9/11, 2003 maybe?
2003?
Did 9/11 happen? The thing is so are you proposing that there's a separate universe where humans also existed and created cars? Because if I'm saying that this Cars universe happened in the universe we live in right now, and this could happen in the future where the cars take over Earth, I would say 9/11 had to happen in this world.
So it's a yes.
Yes, and that also brings on the question: Did the cars go back in time with a plane? Did the plane fly into the building on its own? If the plane had a mind of its own, that's a deep conspiracy. Only Pixar has the answer.
Was it suicidal? Yeah.
It was suicidal, but it was per request of the plane's higher ups. You know what I mean? It was all part of this scheme. Somehow, because they had time traveling capabilities, maybe they used sort of this Middle Eastern terrorist agenda as a way to somehow, maybe there's some big car technology people that were headquartered in the World Trade Center. I don't know who lived in the World Trade Center. It'd be interesting to see, which floors they were on and which floors the plane hit. But
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if Pixar would suggest that more time traveling happened and large-scale events that changed society so much and maybe led us to more putting machines in charge of our security, putting machines in charge of like more parts of our life because of events like this. It could be very well thought out conspiracy. Yeah, I really like that question. It's an excellent question.
Yeah, thank you for.
Thanks for the call. Thanks for the call.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bye. I love you. We want get that cuck out there. Oh, shut that woman up. We have one viewer very angry. It's Matthew Erickson, so I feel like he's like supposed to be in charge because this is a video about his video. Maybe answer the questions. Okay, what's the question? What's your favorite? Am I even going the right way? Oh yeah, these are all new questions. So we're going back. Let's see. We have Kirk saying goat, which I will assume is a question. Goat. I mean, we see smaller tractors as sort of replacing cows in the movie, but goat. I don't know if how much of society is sort of built up of the idea that we have domesticated goats. So I feel like the cars would have sort of just settled with cows and chickens and sort of gotten rid of the goat. But this car universe was like Southwest culture heavy, and I don't think goats were as prominent in that culture. So maybe it was just sort of we only see like Japan and some other stuff. So a good question, but we'll move on. Tomorrow I'm going to wake up and try to remember if it was real. That's interesting. Do cars do they dream? Yeah, they definitely dream. But would they dream about their like human consciousness or the car consciousness? And that's too big of a question, I think, to start now. Nightmares maybe will be real in it. What is your favorite scene in Cars? Oh, yes. Thank you, Peter. I can't read all these comments. How do you... Oh, it's making it over. Yeah, but I can see other comments. Oh, Cameron's asking about other specific conspiracy stuff. I guess I can take a look at those. I feel of course SARS. It's more Hitler questions. I do believe there have to be Hitler versions of cars. I wouldn't say that there was like a Hitler World War II version, but I do believe somehow like Hitler's personality developed in cars somewhat. I can't explain much more than that. Matt, what is your question? What is Matt Erickson's question? Why won't you answer my questions? I wasn't looking when I was in the heat of it.
Is Paul
Ryan a car? I'm not answering that question. Do you think there should be a Cars 4? Cars 4. Matt Erickson brings up Cars 4 a few times in his video. I think if it were to be a Cars 4, I would not want it to be after Cars 3. I want it to be more of an origin story, maybe for a few of the characters or just for the cars together. So Cars 4, I would really like it to be before Lightning McQueen. I think we have to get away from this like just racing is the whole world to them, because there has to be a lot more. If they killed 7 or like 9 billion humans or whatever year it would have been, they had to kill that many people more, or like for more than just a reason that they wanted to race all the time. You know what I mean? Because they would have been able to do that for the most part with humans there. So it seems like they would have, if they did accomplish that, there had to be more reasons. So I want to look at sort of the masterminds of the genocide going on. Can cars kill themselves? I talked about suicide, and I think so. Is talking about the conspiracies, some of the elements of the film. I think it would definitely bridge the gap a little bit if we determined that cars at least thought suicide was a possible option, which I think some of them must contemplate. It's difficult to see if they ever would actually do it, just because we don't know how they die. We don't know how death works for them. We really don't know how they perceive death, even if they think they go somewhere after death. It's an afterlife. If they came from somewhere before life, it's very difficult. And I did not prepare something on that. That'll have to be in a new video. But I think that could be another key element in what they do. If you were a car, what would make you rev your engine? Oof. online discussions like these definitely. Sally, definitely light blue, the color light blue. And probably definitely those 3-wheeled cars. You know what I mean? Like those little ones you see in Southeast Asia, or sort of the Northern European ones, where they look like they're a lot more compact. They have a lot of personality. They have 3 wheels. That would definitely rev my engine a little bit more than most things. Do cars have miscarriages? I don't know. That seems like a waste.
I don't know.
Is there? I'll just wait for Cameron. Should McQueen have died in Cars 3? From the ending that I did read, when I was reading the summary for the ending of Cars 3, I was very confused. I still don't really know how it ended. It appeared supposedly there's sort of some feminist undertones, some female cars might have won and stuff like that. Yes, I guess. And all in all, I think McQueen should have died. If Pixar wanted the Cars universe to be explained, and for all these questions to sort of move on and sort of actually develop like a strong plot and have these characters do something more than just drive fast, I think McQueen should have died. And probably he should have been killed, possibly, just sort of just so we can see this drastic switch of power and maybe see these ideals crash or sort of clash. I really think that would have set up a lot of more prequels and sequels very nicely. How are cars made? We do see a few scenes with some minivan parents that have small cars, so that's interesting. What cars made? How do they reproduce? Just hated it. And how that whole process work. And I really think that some DNA-like thing would have to be exchanged, because I don't think we see sort of cloned cars. So that means it would be somehow a recombination going on. We'd have like two parents making a litter or just a single car. It's probably more machinistic, more like factory assembly line like than maybe how humans reproduce, but it's somewhere between how cars made now and how humans are made now. Why not just watch Cars 3? By the end of this video, Cars 3 could have been watched. But I think there's more important things to talk about than just if you watched Cars 3 or not. Do cars support marriage equality, or do they believe that only male and female cars should join in the sanctity of marriage? This is one of those little deeper questions that's more specific when we don't have these answers about if they have free will, if they ask questions of awareness, like. So that one would also fall in line with sort of they had these. Oh, sorry, I'm going to have to come back to that. We have a call from Daniel Christ. Daniel Christ is on. You're live on Facebook. You hear about questions about the Cars universe? Is that true? Daniel Christ? Oh, yes.
Yeah. Hey, my housemates and I have a question.
Yeah.
To the human universe, we watch Cars 1 through 3.
Yeah.
What is Cars in the Cars universe?
Oh, interesting. Because I did bring up that these Cars movies would have to happen in this universe or later in this universe. So that means that those movies were made. So that means in those movies, there couldn't be a movie about the Cars movie. So there had to be some either replication. Ooh. Maybe this is a great question. That actually might hold the key, because imagine we had some movie at like going back to the beginning of our culture. We had movies about real life people that seemed fake, that seemed animated, and maybe that's how the older cars got the new cars to fall in line and forget that humans existed. Sort of. It's a really good question. Maybe these car movies had to be made by the cars to let humans let their guard down, sort of help new generations of cars sort of move on and forget this whole genocide that could have happened. So I think the car movies we know are exactly the same in the car movie universe. I believe they have This is Reggie, sorry. But yeah, that off the top of my head, that's the only thing that makes sense. I really like that idea.
Okay, thank you. That helps answer it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. All right, looks like we missed a call from Joe Murphy. We'll call back. We'll just keep this ball rolling. So I was in the middle of the support marriage equality, and I think when we're talking about if like what higher order, because it seems like marriage equality was sort of an issue for us because of these religious ideas we had. And so we have Joe Murphy, the question asker, with us on the phone. Hey, you're live.
I would just like to refute a earlier call made by one Dan Chris.
Yes, that just happened.
The thing about the Cars universe, obviously, is that because it had to have occurred at some point along with our universe, the point I would like to make is that we have lost a lot of film history from, early film. There's a lot of film that's been lost with time. Is it too far to assume that Cars 1, 2, and 3 and any future movies in the Carsiverse could just be lost with time in the Cars universe, and that it could occur so much further down the timeline that all copies of Cars have been erased?
Oh, wow.
And what say you about this question?
That's a big what if. That's a big what if comment. And I feel like that question would involve maybe sort of similar explanations that happened in this video. But I feel like a lot would have to be changed just with the timeline. Like, what was the overlap of humans and cars? Like, Reggie, stop. But I like to think.
Well, I know we are the Cars masters, obviously.
Yeah, we are the creators. But they don't really acknowledge having creators. That's where I don't really know if they have religious beliefs in their system. But I do believe that this car universe is developing as we speak. It's going to happen very soon. And these cars are in the very near future. That's what I believe. That's what I probably have to keep believing because they just made a 40-minute video sort of explaining that. But yeah, I do believe the idea of marriage equality, they probably just immediately had it. I don't think they had any opponents to it. They did that wouldn't really make sense.
And have we seen Cars get married, by the way?
Yes, we did see Cars get married. Lizzie and Stanley got married in the second one in 1927 when we see them go back in time. That's where time travel is introduced.
But if they were, of course, to live in our 1927...
If you watch the beginning of the video, I explained that it's a Terminator-like situation where 1927, as far as we know, was mostly humans. Humans were in charge. But in the future, because of time travel, cars went back and changed it somehow. And so that's more physics-related than this video can get into. But I'm sort of proposing that they went back and killed a lot of cars, or a lot of humans, at least in the 20s, or somehow we're living in the 20s. Yeah, or if no, thank you to that. Yeah. Do you have any other questions?
No, thank you for your time, host Evan.
Okay, yeah, this was great. Thank you for calling. Thank you for the support.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too. Bye. All right, this is the video. Are you pro-car feminism? Am I pro-car feminism? Pro-car, wait. Pro-car. It's interesting. It's that doesn't make sense, Cameron. Just call me on my phone. I think because of this. Oh my gosh. I think because of this idea that we're I did suggest that these cars did take on human personalities and human issues, sort of in the universe. I would believe that feminism and sort of this need for feminism that we that we have in our society. I don't think it was as needed because of the quality there, but we do see mostly male vehicles racing in the first one. So it is assumed that there are sort of it's sectioned off between the genders. I'm sorry, Eric. Or it's a different call. Okay, we'll stop on that. But yes, Eric, we have Eric calling right now. Eric, you're on Facebook Live. Do you have any questions about the car movie?
I am live. I have a question.
This is excellent.
Are cars naked, or are there?
Are cars naked? This says okay.
Are they wearing? Because they're not wearing clothes, so are they all just naked?
So we see in a few movies. The example is during Lizzie's wedding scene. Lizzie is a black Model T car, but at her wedding she was had white paint on. So I believe that and Lightning McQueen is painted a few times. He put stickers on them. So it's interesting. It's sort of I think the paint would have to be sort of how they express their fashion in some takes. So I don't think they're naked. I think it would definitely be if their hood was up. I think maybe they make a few jokes about that. If their hood was up, they'd be naked. But as far as I can tell, it's definitely they have paint, and that's their fashion.
All right, so it's like a fashion culture thing. Are there any other culture elements?
Yeah, so we see them when they go to Japan in the second one. We do see different areas of the world sort of fueling up, and sort of their cities are built around different things. And I think this is reminiscent to the idea that part of their consciousness was sort of absorbed, or they absorbed the humans' culture a little bit, who was driving these cars. It gets a little stereotypical of them, but I do think that there's multiple cultures very like ours, and they just don't question why there's different cultures, and that's where Pixar really dropped the ball.
All right, I have one more before I let you go. Is the car Earth flat?
Is the car Earth flat? I believe. From what we know, because it's our Earth, I'm gonna say that the car Earth is a planet. It is round. It's it's three-dimensional space. It's sort of what we know. But I did bring up the fact that they are very resistant to change. They're very resistant to technology and science in it. So I do believe that, especially in Radiator Springs, a lot of them are sort of a flat Earth reminiscent society. I do believe that is definitely still ingrained in them.
Following up with that, though, so you're saying that the Cars universe resembles our universe.
I'm saying Cars is on Earth.
Our universe is flat. How do you know that our Earth is not flat, though? It's not.
All right, now I feel like that's a little out of the scope of sort of a reaction video to review of Cars 3, but. That's just another assumption I'm working under, that our universe is, or our that Earth isn't flat, that it's spherical. But I'm definitely leaning towards that it's a sphere right about now. Yeah.
Leaning towards. All right, so that's all I got, man.
Thank you. Thank you for the call. That's really good questions.
Yeah. All right, have a good one.
I'll see you. I missed some calls. Let's see who else we can get to. Missed some calls from some unknown numbers.
There's Cameron.
Oh, was it Cameron again? Okay. I guess if you call me on the phone, I can actually take them. I feel like they're just don't answer. Oh, here he is. He's calling in. Hello, you're on the Cars.
Hello?
Yeah. Is this Cameron?
Hello, Devin. This is
Cameron.
Cameron Tomczyk. I'm a first-time caller on this podcast. Can you hear me?
Yes. I'm hoping everyone can hear you.
Okay, so Devin, I wasn't here for the first part of it, but one of the bigger questions I have in Cars 1, when Lightning McQueen and that one girl car, I can't recall her name at the moment.
Sally.
Go on okay, so they go on a date, and they go to this old gas station. And so number one, what do you interpret the gas station to be? In terms of is it like a diner or whatever, you know what I mean? But number two, they encounter these car flies, which are like flies, except they're in the shape of a car and they have little wings.
Yeah.
So you were talking about how the birthing process of cars is somewhat between how humans mate and how cars are made. Mm-hmm. But what about those flies?
What about
they're
the
just
flies?
Like cars, but they got little wings.
I believe that is where sort of the Terminator universe analogy comes into play, where in the future, either humans or at this point cars have totally mechanized everything. We even see this now. We're making mechanical bees. We're making basically small cars that can fly right now. And so I don't think it's too big of a jump to make that even humans were already developing sort of machines and cars to replace other sort of natural animals that we have and different elements of that world. So yeah, I think they probably do reproduce similarly to how bees or flies would reproduce now. I guess like with eggs, maybe.
Well, you were telling us that how the cars were made was somewhat in between how humans are made and how machines make cars. So, like, do insects play a process in that?
I don't think what are insects making themselves still, or
well, I mean, it's like somewhat insect sex, and then also somewhat a car factory.
I want to say that these cars that are flies in this movie are able to reproduce on their own at this point, because I was proposing that these cars had the technology either built for them by humans or they built it on their own where they could reproduce on their own. But I do think that would have to carry over to other, like the tractor cows and these little flies. I do believe that somehow these cars are somehow reproducing, like it's all up to them, like when they do it. And
okay. And then the second question I had for you today was, what was the name of the big car that Lightning McQueen had to haul to repave the road in Cars 1 as his punishment?
Oh, I don't think that had a face or personality. That was just like equipment. It was just like a.
It was equipment. You think it was?
I don't.
What I thought was they take advantage of the disabled and the mentally retarded, and that car was not able to speak or like function properly, and so they used her as kind of like a slave. They gave her a name.
Interesting.
Her name was like Big Bertha or something.
Yeah.
So I want to know what your opinion is on that.
That's interesting. Does the car universe have slavery as we know it today?
Well, not even slavery, but just like are mentally retarded cars considered to be cars themselves, or are they like a second caste, like second class citizens? Basically.
That's a tough one. I'll probably just talk about the slavery element. I don't know if I'll talk about the mental retardation, but I do think because they're able to commit such a large scale genocide, I do think slavery was somehow used just to build up so quickly such a vast car and mechanical society. So yeah, slavery makes sense. I do think they probably value cars on sort of mental capacity to some element.
Oh, Matt tried to call me.
No.
Should I put him on at the same time?
Sure. Yeah, that's
my last question for you today is, do you think we're going to be seeing a spin-off such as submarines or boats in the near future?
I don't think submarines are enough of a story.
The land and the air theme that they got going right now.
I think the air has more elements. Just like being underwater, sort of it just hides you there, and we don't really have humans don't really live underwater yet. So I feel like there won't be.
Right? It's like Aquaman, how no one likes him because he's in the water.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like because humans weren't used to living underwater, that it wasn't like ingrained in cars. Like we didn't need a ton of cars just riding around, on the bottom of the ocean. But
understood.
Maybe there's a few.
Hey, well, Devin, I enjoy tuning in every single week. I think you run a great show.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for the call. I'll see you. All right. Eric's calling back. So, Eric, we're going to move on. I'm sorry, Eric. No, don't. Let's see. Do we miss you? The car Egyptian.
Oh,
one more.
Who built the car pyramids? I do believe they go to the pyramids. Oh, is that?
One more.
Oh, Eric answered. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. What's your last question, Eric?
All right. I guess I had three, but I'll skip to this last one. Is there a wage gap in the Cars universe between female cars and male cars? And if so, how is the Cars universe dealing with this social problem?
Okay. The politics are the political world in the Cars universe. They do a little like espionage in the second one that propose that they do have sort of areas or like sectioned off, that they do have like built clans, you know, that people like similar people sort of create little societies around them. So, and someone else was asking if the third one did have feminist elements to it, which I did think it had a little bit, but I like the idea of, because these cars don't have these weird questions and are not building religion, they're staying really shallow. I like the idea that maybe they don't have like racism and feminism, or like what is it, sexism.
They definitely do.
But then we also talked about how it's only male cars really racing for the most part in the first one. We do have some females, but I do think that this would lead to a wage gap probably being developed in their world, because we don't really see any like mechanical differences in men and women. If like women are faster at driving, like if someone's faster at doing this or that, so it's kind of difficult, like how that wage gap would be developed, if it would like favor men, if it would favor women. But I do think there's clues that sexism and racism was developed in this universe.
Are there transgender cars?
That's a tough one. I really don't know what to say about that one. Probably yeah.
You are the expert. I mean, I got to take your opinion. You got just a clean yes. That's how the world works. All right, I'm out.
Thanks. Thanks for the questions.
I'll talk to you this weekend.
Bye.
I'll call you. We'll see.
All right. Let's see if I missed any more questions. Maybe cars have movies called Humans 1, 2, and 3. That's a good comment. Lauren, to get some more ideas out there. That's fun to think about. I think that's probably for a different video. Who built the car? Oh, who built the car pyramids? Definitely slaves, but if they're human slaves, if it's the same pyramids that we know today, it's probably the same pyramids. I don't really think cars would have that much of a sort of a yearning to put a bunch of stones into some weird triangle shape. It doesn't really seem like a mechanical like car thing to do. But yeah, I feel like we should. I think I'm gonna end it here. That was about an hour. I think that's where I have to cut it off. Thank you for all the participation. This has been really great. This is more than I was planning on doing. But thanks for all the questions. Hopefully Matt will come out with some new videos. But yeah, go check out Matt's reviews. His made a lot more sense than the one today, probably. But yeah, have a good night, guys. Like, comment, subscribe.